You are one prayer away from a totally different life. And I know, that sounds like a bumper sticker. It sounds like something you scroll past on Instagram. But don't click away yet. Watch what happens when the logic of the world runs into the logic of God. Let's talk about peace. Real peace. I used to think peace was a mathematical equation. I thought if I accumulated enough variables, the high-status career, the pristine house in the right zip code, the beautiful wife, the 2.5 kids, that the sum total would equal happiness. From the outside, looking at my life, the math checked out. I was Mark. I was the guy you envied. I had the blueprint. I had checked every single box that society promised would make me feel whole. But if you could have peeled back the skin, looked past the tailored suit and the confident handshake, you would have seen a war zone. I was in a silent, grinding war with myself. And the scary part? I was losing. Let me take you back to the before. My operating system was simple. Control. I believed that life was a chaotic beast, and my job was to put a leash on it. I thought if I could just predict every outcome, manage every risk, and micromanage every variable, I would be safe. I was the guy with the 5-year plan for my career and the 10-year plan for my retirement. I treated my life like a spreadsheet. But here is the thing about trying to control the uncontrollable. It requires an engine of anxiety to keep it running. I was terrified. Not of spiders or heights, but of failure. I was terrified that if I stopped spinning the plates for even 1 second, the whole facade would crash down. The nights were the battlefield. 3:00 a.m. That specific, heavy silence, where the only sound is the blood rushing in your ears. I would lie there, staring at the ceiling, while my brain played a highlight reel of catastrophic what-ifs. Did I send that email to the wrong person? Is the market going to crash? Is my son's grade in math a sign he won't get into college? It was like a swarm of locusts eating my sanity. Physically, my body was stuck in fight or flight mode for a decade. I'd be driving to a client meeting and suddenly my chest would seize up. The air would vanish from the car. I'd pull over, gasping, convinced I was dying. I took myself to the ER multiple times. I'd be sitting there under those fluorescent lights, terrified, only for the doctor to come back with a clipboard and say, "Mark, your heart is fine. It's just anxiety." Just anxiety. As if that made it less real. You can't contain that kind of pressure. It leaks. And for me, it leaked out as anger. I was a hair-trigger explosive. A spilled glass of milk at the dinner table wasn't an accident. In my mind, it was an assault on my order. I would snap. I'd see my kids flinch. I'd see the light go out of their eyes. I loved them. God, I loved them. But I was suffocating them. My wife, Sarah, started treating me like a bomb that could go off at any moment. The intimacy evaporated. We became roommates managing a logistics company, not lovers building a life. And watching all of this was my father. You have to understand my dad. He is a retired Marine, old school. He believes in discipline, grit, and self-reliance. To him, emotions are just weakness leaving the body. He looked at my religious sister, Chloe, with this bemused skepticism. He thought faith was a crutch for people who weren't strong enough to handle reality. His advice to me when he saw me cracking? Mark, power through it. Handle your business. So I tried. I doubled down. I read the self-help books. I did the mindfulness apps. I ran until my lungs burned, but it was like putting a Hello Kitty Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. The bleeding was internal. Then came the crash. It wasn't an explosion. It was a realization. I got the big promotion, the VP title, the corner office. We popped the champagne. And I stood there, holding that crystal glass, looking out at the city, and I felt absolutely nothing. The tank was empty. I had climbed to the very peak of the mountain only to realize I had climbed the wrong mountain. That's when Chloe called. She didn't preach. She just invited me to a men's retreat, a weekend in a cabin, fishing, hiking, talking. My immediate reaction was a hard no. A bunch of guys sitting around crying in flannel shirts? Nightmare scenario. But then she dropped the hammer. "Mark, look at yourself. What exactly do you have left to lose?" She was right. The logic of control had failed. So out of pure desperation, I went. I drove up there cynical, armor up. But that first night, around the bonfire, the script flipped. These weren't soft men. These were business owners, construction workers, fathers, And they started talking with a raw, brutal honesty I had never heard in a boardroom. They talked about bankruptcy. They talked about addiction. They talked about their failures as fathers. But they didn't speak with despair. They spoke about Jesus, not as a historical figure in a painting, but as a live current running through their lives. They had this lightness, this gravity of peace. I went on a hike with an older guy named Tom. He didn't try to fix me. He just told me he used to have crippling anxiety until he realized something profound. He said, "Mark, I realized my goal wasn't to conquer anxiety. My goal was just to know God." That sentence broke me. My whole life was about conquering, fixing, winning. I went home, but the war wasn't over. A few weeks later, late at night, a deal fell apart. The panic rose up like a tsunami, the chest pain, the terror. But this time, instead of fighting it, I remembered Tom. I remembered the fire. I got out of my Herman Miller chair, and I got on my knees on the carpet, and I prayed the most inarticulate, messy prayer of my life. I said, "God, if you are real, I am done. I resign as the CEO of my own life. I am broken. I am bankrupt inside. Whatever those men had, I want it. I surrender." I didn't see lights. I didn't hear a booming voice. But as I wept, the atmosphere in the room shifted. It was like a warm, heavy blanket was placed over my shivering soul. The pressure valve released. For the first time in 40 years, the noise stopped. I felt love, not for my sales figures, not for my title, but just for me. Mark, the broken man on the floor. That was the pivot point. The transformation wasn't instantaneous, like flipping a switch. It was like a sunrise, slow, inevitable, and totally changing the landscape. The real test came a week later. My son knocked over a pitcher of grape juice. On the white tile, sticky, purple chaos spreading everywhere. The old Mark would have detonated. I felt that old impulse, that flash of heat. But then, a pause, a check in my spirit. I looked at his terrified eyes. He was waiting for the explosion. I took a breath. I knelt down. I said, "Hey, buddy, it's just juice. Accidents happen. Let's get some towels." My wife was standing in the doorway, frozen. She looked at me like I was an alien. Later, she asked, "Who are you?" And I told her everything. That vulnerability broke the dam. We started talking, real talking. The house began to change. The tension lifted. We became a team again. But the biggest shockwave hit my father. He watched this for months. He watched his angry, stressed-out son become patient and kind. He couldn't reconcile it with his logic. One Sunday, he asked, "What did they do to you at that cabin?" I didn't argue theology. I just gave him a Bible. I said, "Read it, Dad." 6 months later, I got a call. My dad, the Marine, the skeptic, the man of steel, was crying. He said, "Son, I get it now. I've been reading, and I want what you have." At 70 years old, he surrendered his life to Christ. That is the power we are talking about. It dismantled his cynicism, just like it dismantled my anxiety. So look at me. I'm not special. I'm just a guy who stopped fighting. If you are listening to this, and you feel that hollow ache, that exhaustion from trying to hold the world on your shoulders, I have good news. You can put it down. Here is the protocol. This isn't a magic spell. These are the practical steps that rewired my brain and my soul. First, audit the input. You have to read the text. Don't be intimidated by the Bible. Start in the book of John. Read it like a love letter, not a law book. Ask God, "Show me who you are." Second, rewrite the narrative. You have to believe what God says about you, not what your trauma says about you. If you feel worthless, find the verse that says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Write it down. Speak it out loud. You have to overwrite the old code. Third, the silence protocol. Stop talking for 5 minutes a day. Just 5. Sit in the quiet. Put the phone in the other room and listen. Prayer is a dialogue, not a monologue. Give God a chance to reply. Fourth, the love scavenger hunt. Find verses about God's love. John 3:16, Romans 8, and literally write your name in them. For God so loved Mark. For God so loved. It forces the theology from your head into your heart. And finally, the routine. Don't try to be a monk overnight. Consistency beats intensity. 5 minutes a day of real connection is better than 2 hours once a month. I used to think peace was a trophy I had to win. Now I know it's a gift I just had to open. If you are where I was, at the end of your rope, tired of the war, you can end it right now. You don't need a church building. You don't need a priest. You just need honesty. Say this with me. Mean it. God, I'm tired of running. I admit I can't do this on my own. I believe in your son. I surrender my control. Come into this mess. Clean me up. Give me your peace. I am yours. If you prayed that, you just crossed the line. You are on the other side now. Welcome home. Do me a favor. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Tell me one area of your life you are ready to surrender today. Let's encourage each other. I'll see you in the next video.